I went into a bank a couple of weeks ago, and I go up to the teller, and I don't know the young lady. I mean, she's in her 30s, and she looks over at my shirt, and she said, "First Party saved my life." Just unprompted.
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, tell me about that." And she went to a school, wasn't even in our area, whole different area of Kentucky.
Wow.
And wasn't a Christian.
Yep.
Became a Christian through First Party. Went, friends, met her husband in there. Later on, got married, the whole 9 yards, and just was loving it, excited about it.
Working with the local church to take the hope of Christ to every student in the United States. This is First Priority. Now here are your hosts, Steve Cherico and Brad Skelling.
Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. My name is Steve Cherico, and I am glad you are here.
And I'm Brad Skelling, and I'm also glad you're here.
Are you?
I am.
Me too?
Yeah.
Sweet.
I'm glad I'm glad you're here?
I made the list.
You did. You'll make the list today.
Yes.
Yes.
It's amazing.
It is.
What do we got going on this week?
Everybody has a lucky day.
Oh,
lucky moment.
Just one time.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, a little plug here today.
Oh, okay.
Let's plug. If you get on the firstparty.club website, we do have an online club training class that people can jump on, get some mission, vision, values, club basics, launching the club, recruiting students, things of that nature.
Almost like a master class.
Fundamental master class, whichever angle you want to.
Thank you for that.
You run down that line with. Yeah, it's been online. It costs $10. It's out there for people who just need some tips, tools, or maybe it's for you if you're a staff member and say, "Hey, I can't get over to this person." They can go watch that, and you can have coffee afterwards and say, "Hey, what'd you think? Let's talk through the details," rather than needing to, speak all the information all the time. That's out there for you. So wanted to share that resource today.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't think you were you on the master class?
Not this time.
Not this time.
I'm master of other things.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Master of zero. Have you seen my house lately?
Yes, you just showed me a picture.
Let's not talk about that thing. Master of none.
Master of hiring other people to do the work for you.
Exactly.
What do we got on the show today, Steve?
Well, man, we have got two human beings that I really do think the world of.
Yes.
Both from the Tri-Cities area up in Kentucky. So we've got Tim and Chuck on with us.
Tri-County area?
Tri-County. Sorry, I said Tri-Cities. Tri-County. Forgive me.
Tri-Cities isn't even a
I know,
thing. It's like
I know.
Tri-States, Tri-County.
Tri-County.
We should start Tri-Cities, though. That's a good idea.
Thanks for that. Appreciate that. I'll think about which three that is.
Okay. Sounds good.
So from the Tri-County area, Tim and Chuck.
Tim and Chuck jumped on. Tim's been the director as long as I've been. He's been here longer than me. Around.
And that's saying
Chuck,
a lot.
That's not saying very much.
Yep.
And Chuck is his new guy in Lake Cumberland area.
Well, and we don't want to steal thunder from Chuck, so let's not dive too deep in on the front end. But
good, because my brain just lost,
exactly.
lost the counties he's in.
But yes, we're very, very grateful to spend a moment with him. So let's jump in and then we'll talk about it in the end.
Okay, sounds good.
Here we go.
Well, as Steve said, I'm here with Tim and Chuck. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. It's good to have you today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Good to be here.
Well, for our listening audience, as Tim, you said before the show, a lot of people have heard your name before, but they've never probably heard your voice or seen your face. So would you guys introduce yourselves, tell them who you are, where you are, and a little bit about family, things like that?
Yeah, my name's Tim Bargo. I'm the director of First Party Tri-County. And this is my 15th year with Tri-County. Worked at Tri-States a couple of years before that. Obviously a campus coach before that and a youth pastor.
Yeah.
Married to Tammy for 20 years. Have 3 kids.
Nice.
And they're all grown adults now. I have my first grandchild who's 10 months old and another one on the way in September. So
congrats.
That's a new season of life we really enjoy. And
it's a new hobby.
Oh, listen, it's awesome.
I love it.
As everybody said, if you knew what you knew, you'd like to have your grandkids first. But
That's
it's
right.
impossible. And so just excited about what God's been doing with First Party over the years and the relationships we're in. And
cool.
Just cool.
And just for the record, it's not Tri-County. That's how you started with Tri-County. Now you're up to like 8 county.
Our official name is First Party Tri-County, and we are officially in 6 counties.
6 counties? All right. Fair enough. Chuck, you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
I'm Chuck White from Somerset, Kentucky, and a part of First Priority Lake Cumberland.
Okay.
Underneath Tri-County right now.
That's 2 of the 6 counties.
That's 2 of the 6 counties.
There you go. Yeah.
I got involved in First Priority 2 years ago.
Okay.
And so this is just my 2nd year doing this.
Nice.
Married to my wife, Tina, for 35 years. We've got one daughter, Haley. She's 29. and she's talking about having a grandchild. So
There you go.
I'm
There you go.
excited about that.
Nice.
Sure. Yes.
Nice. What'd you do before First Priority?
I was a software engineer for I don't know how many years.
Okay.
Several years. 30.
Long time.
35 years. I guess.
Okay.
So, but anyway, so yeah, I did that for a long time, and God made it so I could retire early, and I thought I was going to go into a widow's ministry.
Okay.
I was all excited about that, and it, as simple as that was to do, I just couldn't work it out.
Hmm.
And I think it's because God wanted me in First Priority. So I get up every morning excited and going into schools and
Yeah.
just love it. I love it.
What drew you into First Priority? What was the hook for you?
I don't really know. Just
God's call.
yeah. I guess just seeing kids do things that I would not have done when I was a kid, and it just was so encouraging.
Yeah.
To me, even though I was a Christian through high school, they're doing things that I did not do, and even if this was available, I doubt that I would have done it unless I had a really strong friend that drew me into it.
Sure.
And that's what I see kids doing. They're bold. They talk to their friends,
Right.
share the gospel with them, invite them to club, and amazing things have been happening.
It's amazing. It's humbling. It's awe-inspiring.
Yep.
It's a pretty cool deal.
All the above.
All of the above.
Yep.
All of the above. Well, let's talk about this school year a little bit. What's been going on in Tri-County? What's the Lord been doing?
Well, so far he's saved 251 students,
Nice.
and that's getting back to pre-COVID numbers,
Yeah.
which is really awesome.
Yeah, we've been talking about that.
And through that, we've distributed 846 Bibles, obviously
Okay.
more than the kids that just accept Christ. And since we began in 2018, finishing up our 15th school year, that puts us at 2,874 salvations.
Wow.
And then obviously, like this year at Seeds Poe was on our bigger numbers across our whole network. We had 2,304 students.
Okay.
So that's one of our largest attendance that we've had. So feel like we're getting back on our feet well.
Nice.
Obviously with everything that everybody was going through, we got back last year, and we got back in all of our clubs. But,
Sure.
You miss a couple of years, and those middle schoolers are in high school, and they didn't have First Priority, and it's almost like you're reintroducing it.
Yep.
And so, but it has been truly awesome. Obviously, from my standpoint, we are fully staffed at this point.
Okay.
Would love to have more staff, but we have 4 area directors like Chuck.
Okay.
Him and 3 more. And so they get up and go visit schools Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And I'm in the office most days, and I'm talking with you and getting resources ready and smart sheets and systems and newsletters and prayer letters. And so it's been a season of change for me.
Okay.
Wasn't real happy about it. A couple of years ago when it started with the first director, area coordinator we hired, and I was in the schools less. But at the end of the day, God showed me there's different times, different seasons.
Yeah.
And every school sees somebody from our office at least once a month.
Yep.
And it was twice a year.
Sure.
So,
oh, wow.
A lot healthier clubs.
Healthier clubs. They're better because you have more people out there. How many clubs are you in right now?
40.
40 clubs. So you're in, probably 10 to 13, 15 more than you were when it was just you, right?
Yeah.
So multiplying out there. I love it.
And
I love it.
More to go into as we can make our way out.
That's right. There's always another county next door.
Especially with Chuck. I mean, Chuck's asking me all the time, can we go to this county? Can we go to this county? Can we go to that county? And obviously I was that way in the beginning, and I love the passion, and I'm like, but we got to get some foundational things set.
Correct.
There's some clubs that we have that could do a whole lot better.
Mm-hmm.
And, before we jump into a new county and start 8 or 9 new clubs, I'd like to make sure. But one example is I emailed him the guys a spreadsheet I'd never looked at in the past of basically a list of clubs who had students saved and a list who didn't.
Oh.
I think that we should have a student saved at every club every year if it's just one.
Yeah.
I've said this reluctantly. I'm not on church staff. I started out that way. But if I was a pastor of a church and I went through 12 months and in 1 year and nobody's saved, I'd resign and leave. So where I'm a director of First Priority and we have a club and nobody's been saved on it, should I resign and leave, or should we try to fix it?
Yeah.
Or do we just ignore it and go on and try to start a new club in another town?
That's a good question.
That's where
it's a good question.
And the reason where I'm there is because obviously FPOA, and I love you guys, are constantly saying, start new clubs. We need new clubs. We need more clubs. Go out. 40. We need 50. We need 60.
But why do we ask you that question, though? So students come to know the Lord.
Exactly.
Right?
And I'm thinking I need to fix about 10 before I get 10 more.
That's good. That's good. But you do something else. You track another number that a lot of people don't. What's your mission field? How many students are there out there in your mission field?
18,500 in our 6 counties. And that is students that's in the 6th through 12th grade. That's not younger students. When I look at populations on websites and stuff, I don't track the younger ages because we don't do that.
Yep.
We have 18,500 reachable students in our counties.
And you said you have 2,800 coming into your club every week?
2,000. We had 2,300 for Sid to Poe.
Okay.
We stayed around 1,900.
Okay.
And actually, month before last, we topped 2,000 for the first time since COVID.
Wow.
For that month.
Uh-huh.
So we were at Sid to Poe numbers in March.
So
that's never happened in the spring.
Okay.
Normally, Sid to Poe's your big when it goes down 17, 18, stays there to Christmas. And then January, February, March, and April are usually 10, 11, 1,200.
Yeah.
It's just the weather where we lived, everything's dropped. This year, we had a really good surge after Christmas.
But you're hitting 10% of the student population is in a first priority club on a weekly basis and growing. That's pretty cool.
Never thought about that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, by average. And, you know, that happens. We have clubs. We have small schools, obviously, rural Kentucky. And my mind goes to one particular elementary school, and they literally, it's a K through 6. We do 6th grade only.
Yep.
And they have 17 6th graders, and we got 15 of them come to first priority on a consistent basis.
Yep.
And the campus coach is like, well, I'm sorry, we only have 15. I heard the other school's got 30. And I'm like, dude, you're reaching 98% or 99% of your available class here.
Yep.
I said, don't be discouraged. You've had 50% of your classes accepted Christ this year.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, and that's one of the reasons why you're tracking the mission field, right? Your 18,000 is important to you because those 6th grade clubs are going away next year. They're consolidating that, right? So the number of clubs will change, but your mission field will stay the same.
Yeah, that's going to cause you all a headache because you guys love saying we have 800, 900 clubs, and you tell us all the time, go out and start 10 more clubs.
Yeah.
We're losing 6 clubs, but the 18,500 stays the same because those 6 clubs are just moving into one building.
Yeah. Yep. That's a fun conversation to have with you about that.
Yeah. So you are going to have to change how you portray your numbers. Instead of 800 clubs, I'll ask you, Brad, how many reachable students are we reaching across America in first priority?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea?
I have no idea.
100,000, 250,000, 500,000?
We talk about the 23 million of teenagers that are in public middle and high schools, and that number changes with every Barna research and Pew research and whatever poll is out there, or census, I guess that one would be relied on, not Barna or Pew. But yeah, we've not asked people to track their mission field, how many students are attending those clubs. But that's a good number to consider.
Because I have several high schools with 125 to 150 students in the whole high school. Mm-hmm. And we get into Chuck's area, and he's got high schools with well over 1,000 kids in them.
Yeah, that's a very different mission field. You approach that differently. You treat that different. Yeah, it's a good word. And I agree with that, which is why I led you down that path, because I think it's something that we should consider as districts, as chapters, as First Party of America. We should be. It's a good number to throw out there. When you can say, hey, 10% of our student population are coming. I know Shane and Natalie can throw that number out there. They track that, what their mission field is versus what's walking through there. I think they're at 10% too, weren't they? 36,000 and about 3,600 kids coming through their club. So yeah, that's good. I like it.
Yeah. And you know, longevity, obviously, that comes up all the time. 15 years, it's been huge.
Yeah.
You know, I just feel like the first 5-6 years, you're learning how to do it, getting on your feet. The next 5 or 6 years, you're getting welcomed in the community.
Yep.
Obviously, there's wins. You know, God just keeps allowing wins to where you know that you're doing what he wants you to do. Mm-hmm. But the longevity of it, and I told you earlier today, instead of story with Steve, we'll do a story with Tim. Uh-huh. I went into a bank a couple of weeks ago, and I go up to the teller, and I don't know the young lady. I mean, she's in her 30s, and she looks over at my shirt, and she said, First Priority saved my life. Just unprompted.
Yeah.
And I said, well, tell me about that. And she went to a school, wasn't even in our area, whole different area of Kentucky.
Wow.
And wasn't a Christian. Became a Christian through First Priority. Their First Priority went on a mission trip in the summer. I've never heard of a club going on a mission trip.
Me either.
And they went on a mission trip that summer.
Okay.
And, you know, friends, met her husband in there, later on got married, the whole 9 yards, and just was loving it, excited about it. You know, left, went about my day. Later that night, my wife and I are in Walmart, just walking around, and I don't really like going there a lot of times, and it's really crowded, and, you know, they get more of your money than you want. And, And some person I'd ever seen before in my life walks up to me, same shirts on, and said, "First Party saved my life." Twice in one day.
Wow.
Hadn't happened in years.
Yeah.
And I said, "Tell me a little bit about that." Well, I was raised in church. I was a good Christian student. Kind of got to that driving age, started doing things, I partying a little bit, maybe, things I shouldn't have been doing. And one of my good friends drugged me to a First Party meeting, and I repented and got right with God. So my rebellious time was 2 weeks instead of years of the rest of my life.
Wow. Yeah.
And so longevity really helps.
Yeah. That's awesome.
When I'm sitting in the office most days now and not getting to see what Chuck's getting to see.
Exactly. Well, let's transition over there. Chuck, what are you seeing this year in the Lake Cumberland? What's God been doing?
God's been working in our area, and it's very exciting to see. And I can relate a little bit to what Tim's talking about because I can't be in all the schools. Thursday's my really busy day, and I have to pick what school I'm going to go to that morning. Yeah. And I know I'm going to miss something at one of the other schools. And I get texts every morning from a campus coach that says, this was awesome. This just happened.
Good.
Can you believe how God's working, those kind of things. One of the things that just happened earlier, this is the first meeting at one of the new schools I picked up. And I got down there, and it was actually a club day, so you had more time. And they had an agenda, and I'd never walked in and seen an agenda like, ready to go, what they were going to do, other than the guide that we use.
Sure.
And I looked on the agenda. I went down there to train. They had missed our training, so I went down there to train them on how to do Epic.
Sure.
And so it had on there on the agenda after the welcome, the introduction, and prayer was 3 student testimonies. And I was thinking, wow, last year at the school I was at, we only had 1 the whole year.
Wow.
And they have 3
the first month. Yeah. They're ready to go.
Yeah. So
New school,
really?
Yeah, they hadn't met in 3 years. This is the first time they'd met in 3 years.
Wow.
So I walk in, they've got chairs lined up around the wall because they're expecting a lot of kids. And this one kid walked in, and his name's Will. And Will's not real tall. He's probably 5'10", 5'11", but he's one of these kids that kind of is not real self-confident, and he doesn't look around a lot. And as the room starts filling up, I'm like, this is not for him.
Yeah.
He's never coming back. And if he had $100, he'd pay somebody to pull the fire alarm right now so he could get out of here. Well, anyway, and as more and more kids come in, he's just getting more and more nervous. And so young man gets up, Cameron, he welcomes everybody, opens us in prayer, and he says, "Now we'll do testimonies." Well, nobody wants to go first. That's scary. You got 35, 40 of your friends out there, or maybe you don't even know them.
Yeah.
Your peers. And so the faculty sponsor says, all right, who's going to go first? And Will stands up. And he walks over, and he stands next to me. He's about 2 or 3 feet away from me, to my right. He's holding a piece of paper, and it says Romans Road on it. He's got a little yellow sticky note on there with some handwritten notes. And that piece of paper is just going crazy.
Shaking.
He's looking at the floor for a long time, like a full minute. And
wow.
And then he makes the mistake of looking up at his peers, and that's worse. He just made it worse.
Huh.
And he turns to me and he mouths, "I don't know how to do it." So I walked over and I got real close to him, and I said, "You can do this." I said, "All you got to do is tell about your life before you came to know Christ, and tell them how you came to know Christ, and then tell them what God's done for you since then." I said, "It's your story, nobody else's.
Yep.
You can do this. You got this." And I seen a little spark in his eye. And Will started giving his testimony. He grew up in foster homes. He said nobody loved him. He knew they were just doing it for the money. Nobody ever cared for him. And he bounced around from home to home.
Yeah.
And he said he found out he was going to this place in Kentucky. And he said, "I never even heard of that place. I didn't know one person there." He said, "But I got a family that loved me. They cared for me." He said, "They didn't go to church, but I could tell they cared for me, and they wanted to see me succeed, and they loved on me." And then he points to my campus coach, and he said he came to my house one time and visited us and invited us to church. He said we started going some. He said then he invited me to go to church camp, which means he paid for him to go to church camp.
Sure.
And he said at church camp, he said, "I accepted Christ." And he said, "My life's never been the same." So anyway, I was there to train, right?
Yeah.
Well, I took that and threw that in the trash can.
Right. Wow.
2 other kids got up, gave similar testimonies, really good.
Wow.
And so I basically shared the gospel real quick and did a time for response, and 4 kids come to accept Christ.
Wow.
It had nothing to do with what I said.
Right.
It was what the kids said.
The kids.
Those kid testimonies are powerful.
Right.
But anyway, so leave the meeting. I'm floating. I call Tim. I call Chris. I call everybody. I know, you ain't believing what's going on. This is awesome. So I get home, and it's about an hour later. I get a text from the faculty sponsor saying another kid come and filled out a card. So we had 35 instead of 34. I'm like, this never happened before.
Mm-hmm.
So I called her and I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, this girl came and said, I want to fill out one of them cards. And she said, what card? She said, one of them club cards. And she said, didn't you get one when you were at club? And she said, I didn't come to this club. And she said, why do you need to fill out a card? She said, my friend came to this club. She told me about Jesus.
Wow.
She said, I want to fill out one of them cards.
Wow.
So it was awesome.
That is awesome.
So now I'm calling everybody again. You ain't believing what's happening.
That's why Tim gets so many phone calls.
But
Students reaching students outside of clubs.
There you go.
So that young lady, she understood the message, the mission, and went out and executed it.
That's right.
And one of her friends accepted Christ.
Wow.
So that was awesome.
Wow.
So that was great.
That's a mic drop moment right there. It didn't get any better than that. That's amazing.
Just rinse and repeat.
Right? Yeah. Can we do that every week in every club? And yeah. Awesome.
So that's why I love doing what I do. I get to see that occasionally. And when I don't get to see it, I hear about it from my faculty sponsors and campus coaches.
Yeah.
I've got some really good campus coaches and faculty sponsors.
Do you?
Yeah, they're great.
That's cool.
Good administrations that I work with. They usually work with us very, very well. So pleased and very thankful for that.
Yep.
You know, I would dare to dream, Brad, and I know without a doubt, but you can't put your hand on it. We've talked many times. It's hard to track that.
Yeah.
What just happened. We track what happens in the meeting.
Uh-huh.
But you hear stories, and sometimes they're 6 months, a year, 2-3 years later.
Or in a bank, 10 years later.
Yeah. The exact same thing. Well, I didn't go to that club meeting and accept Christ, but one of the people who did come back and befriended me and led me to Christ.
Yep. And,
you know, we said years ago in this, of course, you and I have been in this way older than we want to admit, but, you know, First Priority is not a ministry anymore. It's a movement.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. It's a movement of God, taking the hope of Christ to every student through the students. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So what's the key to helping create that environment? What do we need to do for the newbie out there that's trying to get a club going in their school? How do you, I mean, you can't create it, right?
You can create an environment.
You can create an environment.
What I love about the epic resources we have is they're reaffirming every week, you're a missionary, it's your job to reach your friends for Christ.
Yeah.
So that's the constant. And Chuck saw that because we're new in that area.
Yep.
And last year we had 10 or 12 kids saved. This year, how many of you had saved in your area? 17, 19, 20. I mean,
I think it's like 38.
Yeah, it's went up significantly.
There you go.
And clubs that were running 10, 15 kids all of a sudden go 20, 40, 60. And you know, then those faculty sponsors, campus coaches are calling him or his other and say, what are you doing? We want that.
Yeah.
Well, it's creating a culture and it's giving them ownership.
That's right.
You can't come in and dictate, okay, Brad, you're opening in prayer. Chuck, you're doing the lesson as an adult. When you're planning, you have to give them ownership. And part of that is, you know, you're creating that mindset of that culture. If you're bringing in donuts, don't let the Christian kids get one first. Make them get one last. And, you know, if you go in a meeting and there's 35 kids in the room and the adults look at you and say, same 35 kids, I didn't invite anybody, it's invite week. You know, campus coach gets up and says, everybody go get 2 friends. If you don't get back in the room and you close the door. And if they come back with 2 friends, you let them back in. Yeah. And if they come back with 1 friend, you say, sorry, you got to go get another. You're not allowed back in the room. And you don't do that every invite week, but you have to create that culture.
Sure.
And you know, vocabulary is so tough. You can't tell a student, go reach your lost friends. They're like, they know where they're at. They're not lost. Yeah. And so, you know, verbiage and vocabulary and, you know, so you have to be able to create that culture with who's close to you but far from God. Yeah. Most of their friends probably go to church in our area. We're in the Bible Belt a couple, 3 times a year or more. Yep. But they're not Christians. Yeah. They're not doing what they need to do, but they don't see them as needy. Yeah. I don't have any friends like that.
They're comfortable, right?
So you don't use the word lost.
Yeah.
You say close to you, but far from God.
Yeah.
You use different verbiage,
I like it.
Creating a culture, with the breakfast, whatever you're doing. And you don't just go get donuts. You ask the students.
Yeah.
Would y'all rather have donuts or biscuits?
Sure.
If they say steak, say, well, we'll talk about that later, but our budget says donuts or biscuits. But you give them a choice so they have that ownership.
Yeah.
Because a student wants to go to another student and say, come to our club.
Yeah.
Not come to the club.
Yeah.
That's a huge transition.
Mm-hmm.
When it's their club, well, come hear me at my club. You don't want them to say, come to First Priority and hear me do a devotion.
Sure.
That's not what you want.
Yep.
Come to our club, I'm going to do something.
Yeah.
And all that comes out of the culture and the ownership of it.
I love it.
And you can create culture.
You can create culture. You are right.
The old saying, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Mm-hmm.
My first pastor said, if you got a salt block, you can make it drink. That's
a good word right there.
You can create culture.
And we're to be salt and light, right?
And that comes from prayer, community around, prayer before the flagpole, the adults.
Yeah.
Our schools are getting prayed for more than ever, which is awesome, and need more prayer than that. But with prayer and the work of the Holy Spirit, you can create culture.
That's right. That's right. It's a good word.
And we've talked a lot about burden, the leadership of First Priority having a burden, and the working down to the campus coaches. But when you get the kids that have that burden, it don't take a lot.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just 1, 2. When they really get the burden and they understand like that girl did.
Yeah.
And they understand the mission and start executing it. It's amazing.
That's right. That's right.
It's cool.
Cool.
Reminds me of a story Robbins told years ago. Mark Robbins, what's his title?
President
of First Priority America. And, he's had like 4 different titles.
I know.
But anyway, he was just telling this story about, he went to a meeting and the kids weren't inviting anybody. And one of the student leaders got up and he's like, if you was driving on the way home today and your best friend's house was on fire, you'd go in there and jerk him out. Mm-hmm. He said, all your friends you think's Christians that's doing this and this. And it was naming particular sins. And he started to name names. And Mark said, one of the adults was like, and cleared the throat. He said, they're in a spiritual house on fire and you ain't doing nothing to save them. And said the next week they like doubled.
Nice.
So it was a student who actually urged them on.
Sure. Sparked that urgency. Exactly.
Fire analogy. Sparked.
That's right. That's good. That's good. I appreciate it. Any final thoughts for today for the listeners of our podcast? The words of wisdom?
Just if you're working in First Priority, keep it up. Keep doing what you're doing. It's a worthy cause. It's worth the effort.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if we just do our part and trust God to do his part,
yep,
it'll all go great. And he's got the hard part.
Yeah.
Our part's easy. Our part is fun.
Yeah.
And he'll do the heavy lifting.
That's right. That's right. Tim, you got anything?
Always.
Put you on the spot.
Yeah, I always have something.
The
first thing I would say is you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
People don't think they're doing well because maybe they're not getting the numbers they hear about in other places. It's a seed ministry, sowing the seed, God waters the seed.
Yep.
You're doing a good job. Long as you're doing what FPOA wants you to do, you're using the things they want you to do. Yeah, I can't say 100% everybody, but you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
Yep.
And the fruit will come.
That's right. That's right.
Largest club we've got right now, topped at 394 kids last week.
Wow.
Largest club we've ever had.
Yeah.
Was running 40, 50 kids a couple years ago. A couple years for that was running 20 or 30 kids. Same faculty sponsor, same campus coach, different student leaders.
Yep.
And that's what I would tell them. You're not alone. You're doing it right. And fruit will come. Now all the other schools are calling and saying, what are they doing? We need to be doing. You're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It's God's timing.
Keep going. Yep.
Culture and leadership, culture and ownership make a huge difference.
Yeah.
But for most, you're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
You are doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep doing it and the fruit will come.
I love it. Well, thanks to both of you for joining, jumping on the podcast. Obviously, you're in town for the spring meeting, jumping on the podcast. You're in town for the spring meeting in Nashville here. So it's been an honor. It's been fun hanging out with you for the past 24 hours and look forward to doing it again. Well, Steve, like we said last week, it is refreshing to hear stories. It's refreshing to hear about how God calls people uniquely to their place, to their location for their time, for their cities, their counties. And it's just good to take the hope of Christ to every student together. Love having Tim and Chuck on the show today.
Well, and what you just said is where I was going to go, which is mission and vision is there for us to draw people in.
Yep.
Story is what hook, line, and sinkers them, right? Mm-hmm. If I really want to catch people and help them to catch the vision and the mission, then I tell story.
Yeah.
And so for us as directors, as coordinators, as those who are doing the work on the grounds, right? The few laborers are few, but the harvest is plentiful. For those of us who are in the midst of the harvest on the school campus and in our city surrounding the school campus, the story matters.
Yeah.
It's a huge deal to people for them to hear. And so the other side of that to me that I was thinking about as you guys were just talking is the reality is all of these stories that are behind the scenes, people listen to podcasts, all of those stories, when you can articulate that well, it articulates something that matters to you, which is the why.
Yep.
Right? This is why I do what I do, because I am who I am.
Yep.
And I heard that today from these guys.
It's awesome. It's awesome. It's good stuff. Well, we've got a few more stories in the next coming weeks, so keep coming back to listen, and we'll keep sharing stories. Hopefully they're encouraging.
Looking forward to it.
All right. Until next week.
Till then.
Thanks, Steve.
See ya.